Good morning from Costa Rica. Well, the dog is wound up already. I'm seeing a lot of comments from industry people about the coming storm or the inevitable social unrest or the violent wave that will be coming as a byproduct of the pandemic. And I just wanted to address that. I'm anticipating that there's going to be social unrest here due to a number of different elements that are manifesting themselves at the moment. But it's not a sure event in every place in the world. I mean, we're not going into a chaotic, apocalyptic Mad Max type element, or at least we have no idea if we are. I'd like to give a little explanation on what I'm seeing from that perspective. What I see is a lot of men in the industry that are having trouble coping with the fact that this is an invisible enemy, something that you can't punch or cut or stab or hit with a stick or any of these things. This is a different kind of a battle. This is a battle of attrition. You against your own mind, you against your tolerance for the rest of humanity. It's a battle that, whether you believe that it's financial or economical or economic, or the virus itself, or you're planning, for both simultaneously, it's not an opponent that you've ever faced before. And the insecurity of whether you have control, have that locus of control to defeat it, is the thing that's making so many people in this industry insecure. So they transfer that insecurity and unsurety to elements that are in their comfort zone. In this case, the coming storm, which you can make tangible and you can put a face to, because it's going to be people that are uprising and causing violence and creating chaos. So if you have a face to it and you can punch it or cut it or stab it or hit it, it becomes a more tangible enemy again, and something that's more within your locus of control. That's kind of the psychology that I see behind it. I don't think that manner of speaking really benefits, other than projecting your own insecurity or unsurety with the event. But there are a lot of things that cause this enemy to be very powerful. The one is that we can't see it. The two is that we have no idea how we're going to react to it until it invades us. So that's another one. The third one is how vulnerable and weak we're going to be perceived by our circle should we fail in those two, the economic or the viral. So that I see a lot of that aggression being projected on the upcoming storm or the inevitable wave coming in. And here, at least, we're a little bit further on than a lot of first world or developed countries. And I'm preparing for that, and I'm ready for it psychologically, but I'm not saying that it's an inevitability at this point. And there are far greater threats at this point than that. The virus itself, like I said, we have no idea how our body's going to react to it until we get it. It and the pandemic that it's caused has already created economic and financial destruction and industry standstill everywhere you look. So the threat of losing control of oneself is another big threat, of isolation, which people are not comfortable with, especially in this industry, of losing loved ones or having those loved ones be torn apart by dissenting views or bilateral factors. So, I mean, there's a lot of threats right now that are far greater than the one of violence that may potentially come. That utter financial and economic destruction, potentially death by a number of different things. And like I've said since day one, death doesn't come only in the form of the virus. It can come from an overloaded healthcare system that causes you to not be attended with another satellite healthcare problem that won't be addressed because the resources have now been diverted elsewhere. So what I'm seeing a lot of is the insecurity and projection and discomfort from people, even high-level people in the industry, onto this event. It doesn't make them feel comfortable. They have little power in what they're capable of doing, so they resort to trivial arguments and tribalism that don't really have any effect on the modern situation of things. Or they're not thinking, I'll just let the plane fly overhead here. Or they're not thinking of the satellite problems that are caused by this virus, or the big picture elements that are happening because of this. So to regain some locus of control, it's far easier to pick a minor micro thing and make it a war or a battle cry. So I mean, that being said, where am I going with all of this? Stay the course. Don't feed fear. Don't spread that idea that this inevitable wave of violence is coming, because we simply don't know. Nobody knows exactly where we're at. That's why this is so difficult, and that's why people, I've noticed a lot of men are seriously struggling during this crisis, because it's not something they can put a face to or have a tangible effect with, or make it into a physical confrontation. It requires an entirely different set of skills. This is a war or a battle that is not going to be solved by all of the training that you've done in the physical realm with martial arts or combatives or personal protection, self-defense, or whatever the case may be. This is not that kind of a battle. So for a lot of us, it's a battle that we haven't prepared for. And when we think that we've prepared for every possible threat or risk to our family, and all of a sudden after 20, 30, 40 years in the industry, we've become unprepared and do not have the appropriate skill sets at this point to deal with this kind of animal, it can be unsettling. And the biggest thing is two elements. Admit that, if nothing else to yourself, that it's okay to feel insecure. It's okay to not know where this is all headed. Part of the building of internal and innate strength comes from the fact that you can go, I'm not sure where this is all leading. I really don't know, but I'm good with it. And it'll allow me to develop the adaptive skills that I will need along the way to conquer it or to manage it in the most effective way possible. And the other thing is just that simple admittance of, I don't know. I don't know where this is all headed. I don't have all the answers. And that's okay too, because neither do the professionals. We see conflicting medical and scientific and biochemical differences from the experts almost daily on social media, where they're disagreeing with each other on where this is all headed, what's all going to transpire, how serious this is or not. So if they don't know, it's okay that I don't know. It's not imperative that I know. My focus is on being flexible and being adaptable and being able to change in a heartbeat what I think is necessary information and what I don't think is. What I think are imperative skill sets with the new accurate information that I've received versus those that aren't. And that can change. Those skill sets that got us through the first phase may not be viable anymore as greater information comes as this progresses. So I will have to change those skill sets. But along the way, instead of going, oh, this is all too much, all of this changing and I hate change, the fact that I'm accumulating skill sets and adaptability along the way has a ton of value. Imagine once this is over, the volume of survival skill sets you will have accumulated in a real life event, whether you believe that event has the greatest threat being the virus or the economical and financial disaster. You're still accumulating those base skill sets that will transfer to this as this evolves, mutates, or progresses. The situation, not necessarily just the virus. So take solace in that. There's a ton of value in building those skill sets. And yeah, I know this all sucks and it's monotony and it causes anxiety. And some days you just feel like saying, fuck it, I can't handle this anymore. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, I still look at this as something that I'm ready for. That wherever this leads, the idea that I'm okay with not knowing and being unsure of it all is okay. And from there, I start building and planning and evolving and strengthening my little micro tribe. And I mean, that's a different topic altogether. We've talked about the negativity on tribalism, but when you're in a little micro tribe in your family and you have to be dealing with space, social bubbles and social distancing and whether you're going to go out or not, and it pays to have that micro tribal attitude so that you guys are all on the same page and strengthening that bond that you have with generally the only people that you're allowed to interact with in an isolated space for a 24-hour period. So tribalism takes on a little bit different of a tone in that environment than it does out in public with wider and bigger groups of people. But we'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, reach out and take that for what it's worth. Don't get wrapped up in the violent wave is coming. You better be prepared. We don't know where this is all headed. Prepare for it as you'll prepare for one of 6 other things that you need to prepare for, and deal with it as it comes. And the signs of that kind of event usually make themselves pretty well known in advance. I'm seeing it progress here to a certain extent, but I'm not falling off my chair at this point. And I'm probably more far along on this stage than many of you are. So be calm. Maintain that same societal triangle that I continually tell you to and preach for you to strengthen along this journey. Self-control, discipline, and patience. Adhere to those. Those are 3 pillars to me that have been a daily strengthening process. And it's paid off to this point. I need coffee really badly, so I'm going to go get on that at this point. Have a great one.